One probably would be your gated compound, the complex where you live by, because pandemic made all of us want to reconnect with our neighbors. That leaves you with two more. One typically would be a professional circle group, and one could be another interest-based group. Now, you tell me, if you're going to fight for this mind space, how do you expect your community member to actually visit you more regularly or actually engage with you? What would make your community member do that? And I think the answer lies in activation, because each and every one of us on a daily basis, we are joining multiple communities. You see something, join. It's so easy, right? Click, join, join, join. It's so easy when a friend says, listen, I'm part of this circle, come. They have these amazing conversations. I do this day in, day out with one of my closest friends, right? I keep sending, I literally spam her with links. Girl, you need to join this particular group. You need to join this group. They're having some amazing fun stuff. But then what? So the onus is on us as community builders that as soon as these people come in, we activate them. What does activation really mean and why is it important? Now, we all know a standard thumb rule on social media, on publishing platforms, amongst content creators, be it any platform, be it a LinkedIn, a Slack, a WhatsApp group, a Facebook group, an app, Discord, Disciple, Circle, wherever. The golden rule is only 1 to 2% of your community members are actually creating content and are engaging with you. Close to 98% of them are actually just observing. They're scrolling. That's all they're doing with their thumbs. They may like something, but we all have established, and Instagram went to the extent of saying, you know what, likes doesn't matter. So then what? Is liking an activation? Is an engagement? No, it's not. It's the least effort. A lot of times we just blindly like stuff. Something to think about. In your community, how do you actually address or interact with new members? Can you put that in the chat and tell me? Guys, let's just make this really active. Let's have everybody, putting in answers here, because a lot of this is going to be helping each and every one of us. How do you interact and welcome the new members who join in your community? And why do you even do that? What do you tell them? Take a moment, think about it. Khushbu says she puts out a welcome post. Khushbu, my next question to you is, when you put out a welcome post, do you simply say, hi, welcome? Or do you say something else? What is it that you're saying in a welcome post? A welcome post doesn't start and end with welcome. There's a lot more that goes into it. So Neha says she does welcome messages. She writes, when they write a content piece, she encourages them cheer phrases. Abrar says he puts out a catchphrase. Khushbu says there's a call to action which says, introduce yourself, followed by rules of the group. Ashwarya, amazing. Pair them up with old members, buddy. Oh, I love the buddy concept, guys. Totally up for it, but there's a big challenge at the buddies level. All right. Include users to welcome them. You can trust people. Now, let's look at it this way. If you now put yourself in your member's place, if you join a community and the admin tags you as soon as you've entered the community and says, hi, please introduce yourself, would you do that? Now look at it from this perspective. You have been invited for a party where you don't know people. You may or may not know one or two people out there. You enter this really large, fancy party out there. You're excited, you're nervous. You're probably an ambivert, extrovert, or introvert. Would you just enter and somebody says hi, and you would just start off talking about yourself? Would you directly start asking questions? Hey, where's the bar? Or would you take time to sort of settle into the party, observe your surroundings, see who's who, what are the interactions going on? Can you identify groups of people? Yes, Aishwarya, social anxiety, it also happens in digital communities. So as a host, as a community moderator, what is the onus on you? Your onus is to give time to the new member to settle in. By all means, ask them to introduce themselves, but to a few people gradually. Get them to sort of be comfortable. tag them to relevant stuff. And when I say relevant stuff, what does it mean? Now, for example, if your community is for developers, assuming, what are the kind of first few content pieces or conversations do you think a developer would be really interested in? Maybe some hacks, maybe some learning resources, maybe a mentor. Now, if you are a community of, say, women, and it's an interest based community, again, keeping in mind the interest of the community, the core theme of the community, what is it that you would tag that person to so that she can take her own sweet time, consume the conversations, consume the content, and then start saying, okay, maybe now I can talk. Because if you ask someone, hey, come ask questions, listen, I don't know you. Why am I going to ask you questions and show how vulnerable I am? We don't do that in a social setup either, right? So why do that in a digital community? Think about it while I just go through the chats. So Siv says generic welcome messages, as it's a massive community, thousands joining. Absolutely, Siv. But even your generic welcome message can have something really targeted. All right. Riyadi says how to persuade them to getting value in a community and explain the absolutely bang on. Neha says you created a safe space for them. We introduced them to help. How to tag new members where every week thousands of new people are joining it. Absolutely. Always a challenge, right? And that's where you need to work with your tech teams, which also help you bunch users. So we'll come to that. But first, let's get to the point of really activating them. So we've established the need for activating them. We've established why activation is important, right? To get them comfortable. Now look at it this way. Only if people are activated in your community will they actually want to continue to engage, which is your next step, right? Now, when is a member most likely to be activated? As soon as they enter, after a few hours, after a few days, or before you realize they have been lost? Because yes, we have communities which have lakhs of members. When is someone most likely to get activated? Think about it. When will you reach out to someone to make a conversation? When you need something, when you have had an aha moment, you're extremely happy or excited. Guys, emotions. So, in a community, are you able to create those mini experiences for these members to actually come up and say, I have a similar problem. What can I do about it? So besides welcoming new members, what are the other pieces of activation? Running a contest, running challenges, doing giveaways, sharing success stories, sharing stories of trial and strength, which motivate and inspire, because that is when members really stand up for somebody else. Are you using these engagement pieces to activate your members and not necessarily depending on welcome post and tagging members? You never know what might activate a member, right? So the best way to do is try out multiple versions of these things and then see what kind of members are responding to what kind of activation post. It could be something as simple as, something which I run in my community very often. It's called KYU series. It's called Know Your Users. We simply every week put out a post, tell us which city you're from, right? People discover common cities. What age group are you in, or what are your interests? Sounds very basic, very simple, but you know what? It's least effort. And that's why I, as a new member, I don't think it's too much of a pain to type that one word or one sentence. If you ask me to ask a question or share my content or create some amazing content for the new members, not going to happen. It's got to be something which is very low effort, a little more than liking, because liking is dismissive today. So now, in the chat, tell me, what are the other similar ideas that you can come up with which would actually help you activate your community members or you think are challenges? Any thoughts here? And Khushbu, I hope this also answers your question about tagging new members. You don't have to tag new members always. Please no, because it can often be very spammy and stockish, right? Like, listen, I've just come and stop tagging me. So, you sort of pace it out, you create batches and tag. There was, I believe, another question. Generic message, Siv, like I said, typically a welcome message could say, hi, welcome, introduce yourself. But think of it this use case now. Siv, I don't know what community do you run. If you could just tell me, I could actually give you a very directed example for that also. Let's Siv answer it. So, for example, right, if I run a community for, give me an example, guys. Aspirin developers from Bharat. Awesome, right? Imagine this. Now, what is, and this is like the next set of our entire conversation today. Can you identify the problem statement for which members are joining your community? If you can identify the problem statement which your community aims to solve for these members, that is the trigger point for all your activations. So, Siv, in your case, if you can identify 3 core, really deep problem statements that aspirant developers have, I'm assuming it could be upskilling, learning new languages, uh, some sort of mentoring in terms of careers, or identifying good resources to learn. If you think they are your core issues, then my welcome post in your community would actually say, hi, so amazing you guys have joined in. We as a community have crowdsourced over the last so many months and put together this no fail hack sheet for all aspiring developers of maybe JS Reactive or maybe another language. You know, what are you doing? You're immediately giving them some amazing meat, free of cost, no threads attached to it, without asking them to do much, but just find true value. I believe Riyadi had this question, right? How do you get them to realize the value of the community? The value comes in when, for the first couple of days, weeks, you're actually giving them more than asking anything in return. So think about this for a moment. In your chats, tell me now, what is it that you're really going to give them for the first 4 weeks, 30 days? I know it's a big ask. What is it? Give them ask in return for first year. Thanks, Neha. Tell me in the chat, what is it that you're going to give your community members? And that's why, guys, I really need to know what your communities are working on with space. Let's make this interactive. Let everybody cross learn from each other. I'm going to learn a lot today. What is it? Why should I come back to you? Why do you want something from me on day one? Why can you not give me something? Because you are a community. Communities are supposed to give. People forget that they're also supposed to give back. We'll come to it. But for now, the act.
Ritu, I think you got muted. Sorry.
Oops, I'm sorry. Where did you guys lose me?
Um, I mean, yeah,
Fair point. I get that.
because it was
Alright.
literally in the middle. I really can't
I
give
was
you.
like, yeah. Okay, so the whole point is, okay, I lost track of it. But okay, Riyadi has a question. Let me come back to that. That's good way, Ritu, but sometimes when I manage them to engage in a WhatsApp group, the conversation is flowing to negative discussions because that's some problem from our product, and at the end, many member out. All right. So I'll tell you, Riyadi, this is a classic problem statement, and that's when a community builder actually dons the hat of a crisis solver. My thumb rules, which I follow, and I would recommend everybody to follow: community members, customers are the kings and the queens. Firstly, apologize. All right. Kushbu, you would remember this particular experience we've had with spammers and trolls on one of the communities we co-managed some years back. Absolutely apologize and say, let us figure this out. Give us 48 hours or 72 hours, we will come back to you. So what you've done, you've acknowledged the problem, you've apologized for the inconvenience, you've given them the timeline already. You've not yet given a solution. Why? Because first you want to ensure that you understand the problem completely. Then, as and when you get bits of information pieces, very tactfully keep updating the community on the same. And because the problem statement has been raised in the community on a public forum, reach out on DM to understand the problem statement, but solve it on the public platform, because that will make sure the others are also tuned in. Resolve it in those 72 hours, and then you have a solution and you say, listen, there is no harm in saying, listen, we're also growing, we're also learning, we are bound to make mistakes. Get them to be invested in your journey of building whatever you're building. And that also comes through nurturing the community. I always owe up my mistakes, and I always tell my community members, hey, you know what? We screwed up. I'm so sorry. But we're also learning, and feedback like this keeps us going. I'm not saying give them a discount, give them a freebie. No, an apology is all that they need, an acknowledgement, and a time resolution. If these three things are in place and you manage to solve it, and then at the back end, put in a process in place where you can always preempt such issues also. So, Riyadi, hope that helps you. Also, if people are still leaving your community, reach out to them, explain to them, spend 3 hours of your day if needed to do that, because yes, you want to. Also, remember, you will always have churn in a community. If community members are going to exit for something really small, maybe they're meant to leave. It's okay. You need members who are equally invested into you. All right, what does Riyadi say here? I've set culture to my community member to greet every, and it helps me a lot. I don't have to greet every single. Absolutely, you should always onboard. I believe Aishwarya mentioned the buddy system, right? Absolutely a win-win. You should do that. You should get your older members to join in. Now, coming back to the problem statement, right? Keep giving for the first 4 weeks. Don't ask them for return in anything. At the end of 4 weeks, look at your community. How many of them have really started to engage or keep coming back more often? You will see that with basic reactions and likes, even if they're not commenting at that point of time. All right. Then that is when you're ready to get them to be doing something for the community. A quick hack that always works: if one of your members or couple of your members have been responding or being attentive in a certain conversation as a lurker, next time the conversation happens, Khushbu, for you, this is when you tag that user and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you could help us out in this particular conversation. Do you have any view on this? You've given them time. Now you're giving them the importance and you're activating them. That's how you do this. Other ways, typically, if you're part of an e-commerce place, or if you're a part of a place, a community where there are transactions going on, free trials is a very good way to activate members. But remember, when you're activating members using free trials, you have to onboard them. You have to communicate with them every single day to show true value of your product or your service or the entire community. So anything that you do has to have a lot of structure around it. So take some time to plan these things. Don't just ad hoc create a contest and say, okay, Arch, we'll do a contest today. No, plan it. Are you going to send them out emailers, app push notifications? Are you going to send out alerts? Are you going to send out any sort of banners in your community itself? Do you have any asset on your community platform that you can use for this? It could be videos, reels, carousels, images, videos, whatever you want, right? Couple of other pieces is, if you can identify all the least effort actions that a member can do in your community, like, share, save, maybe say very good. Can you identify such actions in your community which are low effort but result in impact, result in some form of activation. Can you do that? I'll give you an example. A lot of music platforms believe that the best way to activate a listener is if they have favorited 3 songs. If you have favorited, so their logic is if a member favorites 3 songs, I know this user is activated and will continue to be on my platform for X number of days. If I'm part of a larger community, which also has sub communities, interest based communities, if I have joined at least one sub community on the day I became part of the larger community, I have been activated. Okay. If you have free resources, content, printables available on your community, resources in terms of any sort of resources, PDFs, right? Presentations, videos. If I, as a member, have downloaded even 2 of them, I have been activated. So identify such pieces in your community, in your use cases, and those are your activation points. It's not always creating user generated content is not activation necessarily, right? In some cases, completing profiles, putting all details on a profile is also activation. And that's why you find a lot of platforms insisting on profile completion. They're like, no, no, give us more details. Why? Because you've it's like you've put a part of you on that community. Now, how do you eliminate and delete your entire profile? You're not on the fence anymore. You've crossed over the fence. You have been activated, right? So now I need you guys to think of at least one piece that you would do in your community, which is different from what you're currently doing, having heard me say all of this that I've said to you. Put it into the chat right now. Only when I get those responses will I actually open up the Google Sheet and we're going to do an activity. And Neha, do you think we could do breakout rooms? Yeah, so we will do probably 3 breakout rooms. Or do you want to do more? How would you recommend? I'm okay with anything.
Yeah, we're about 27 people right now. So, just give me a second. If we have about 5 people in each room, we'll have 6 rooms.
Yeah. All right. So we will do breakout rooms. But before we do that, guys, I want one example that you think you can do in your community, which is different from what you're doing currently for activating your members. Also mention what your community really does. It will give you great context. I'm looking at the chats, guys. Keep them coming.
We're waiting for your chats. Yeah.
This would be an impasse, okay? If we don't receive anything in the chat, we're not going ahead.
I love that approach.
I'm a mom to a 5-year-old. I have to threaten.
Oh, yeah. Disciplining.
All right. Charity, adding value, beautiful thought. I have seen a lot of businesses create communities for charity as an extension to their clients and customers. It has brought so much value to them as a business and even the charity that they have done. I think it's a beautiful approach to do that. Fantastic. A lot of times, this is just the way. Creating impact, yes. Good, Siv. That's great. Anybody else who wants to pitch in here? This is like the 1% of our.
I know.
This is 1%. Okay, last 30 seconds and then we break it into the activities. In the activity room, you are going to be actually pitching against each other, guys. So pray that you get into a great fun breakout room now.
So you can explain exactly what they'd be discussing.
I will, just a bit. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen and show you. There is an Excel sheet which simply says activation and impact. That's it. You're going to be in breakout rooms of 5s and 6s. All right. You guys need to brainstorm on your Google Sheet. What would be like the 5 or 6 or 10 activation initiatives that you can make in your respective community, and what impact do you expect out of those? It's very important that what you do, you should know what are you expecting it to result into. Ideally, if it's measurable, even better, because if you can't measure it, you can't move it. So what is the activity for activation that you would do in your community? What do you think would be the impact of it? Now, if we break into 5 groups with 5 people each, I'm expecting each group to come up with at least 12 solution sets. All right. This sheet is going to be available to you at the end of the session once we finalize it. I would recommend, when don't edit the sheet, make multiple tabs on it. Give your group a name, whether it's group 1, group 2, or you want to be really creative and call yourself monsters and butterflies and whatnot. Create tabs, copy paste this sheet, and work on those. I will keep floating in and out of the breakout rooms and help you also at the same time. All right? Awesome. So Neha, can we have the breakout rooms? I'm loving the answers that are coming in the chat, by the way. Fantastic. All right, let's go for the breakout rooms, girls.
Yep, just give me a second. So we're 6 people in each room, so 5 rooms, okay?
Absolutely.
And we're setting the time limit to 10 minutes.
Yeah. Because guys, we also have to talk about engagement and a couple of other stuff also. And I want you guys to throw your questions at me then.
Alrighty, here we go.
Hi, sorry, I sort of lost my way somewhere, I think, between the groups. It was a bit like a maze. All right, so I think what we're going to do is the breakout rooms was a bit of a confusion for all of us. And we'll just share the screen here and we'll do it right now. Give me a moment, guys. See, things happen. We're also learning. All right, let me share my screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So I will need help out here, Neha, from you, because if I'm looking at the Google sheet, I can't look at the chat. Guys, in the chat section, start putting in your ideas. Column B says activation. Column C says impact. Give me at least 2 activation ideas and the impact you intend to create out of it in your respective communities or generally. All right. Start pouring in. I'm going to put down some pieces. Don't insert them, just put them in the chat. I will populate the sheet so that there's no confusion at all. Come on, I'm looking at the chat. I don't see much happening here. Oh, wow, I see some stuff. I create a weekly session for our evangelist users to chat and support each others without any agenda from the company. It helps them release stress during pandemic. Absolutely fantastic. So you're essentially nurturing your power users. Yashra says a collaborative activity. Once again, where did I lose it? Just like what we're doing right now. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for just putting it in. Amazing. What's the impact, Yash? What do you think it solves for? Why would someone want to be activated using this approach? Guys, when you put down your ideas onto the sheet, be very clear what is it that you wish to achieve out of that particular activation technique. All right, I'm waiting. Why are we not seeing a lot happening out here, guys? Come on. Okay, I'm going to put something here. Welcome new members with helpful information. Feel comfy and get them to know their community. Knowing they're not alone, there are some others in the journey. Well thought of, Yash. Anything else that you guys would want to add here, guys? Come on. Any challenges that you constantly face in your communities, which you would also want to talk about, we can actually solve it through this particular sheet. So keep them coming. Meet the leaders sessions impact learning and individual growth. Ashwarya, feel free to add it onto the sheet. It'll be amazing. That's a really good one. And do you mean like a one-to-one or like a one-to-many? What do you recommend? Also ask for feedback. Is that a way, in a way, they're getting attention? Absolutely. But Manohar, quick question to you. Would it be wise to ask feedback within the first 4 weeks of someone being a very new member in your community, or would you want to wait for that member to be activated and hence take feedback then and then ask them that, listen, how was it when you just joined in the community? Was the journey easy for you to understand what we do? So maybe give them some time. A new member would really not know what to say. They would be like, yeah, I think it's okay. That's the standard reply that you would get if you have gotten on calls with your members at any point of time. All right, Aishwarya, do mention one to many. Sharing stories on a particular topic? Absolutely. I saw something very interesting. Abrar says emotional trigger, find their interest, impact, involvement. Absolutely. Emotions work. At the end of the day, it is personal. We may be professional, but the reason we're part of a professional network, or probably today we've all gathered, is why? It's very personal, right? We want to upskill ourselves. We want to do better in our work. Why? It'll make us feel good, do better, perform better. So, yes, it's personal. I guess it's better for weight. Absolutely, Yash. Any more thoughts coming in? I don't see much. All right. So I'm going to stop my screen share and yes. Oh, so we've got not too many contributions, but I do hope you've got your takeaways, which you sort of have made notes for yourself. Any questions on activation? Because I have a question on an activation which I want to ask each and every one of you out here. Neha, can I ask this question to you? How do you measure activation at your community? So we've spoken about these amazing ideas, right? Now, if you were to implement them, how would you measure them? You're on mute, Neha. You can't unmute? Yeah, I also can't unmute you. It says presenter mode off. Okay, she'll figure that. In the meanwhile, everybody else, whatever ideas you guys have spoken about or you have shared in the Google Doc, how would you measure each of these activation tools or initiatives or actions that you do? Because if you can't measure, you don't know whether it's working or not working. So, how are you really measuring it? I'm waiting. Some thoughts. There are no right answers, there are no wrong answers. There are just thoughts right now because we're all brainstorming. I measure number of apps new members have developed. Yes, Yash. Ashwini says, Avinashi, sorry, my bad. Number of active users. Imran says, divide the number of users who completed that activity by the total number of users who signed up for your product. Imran, that's a fantastic. You've given us a formula, right? Ashwarya says we do quarterly one-on-one check-ins or reflection forms. Do you guys do NPS surveys with your community members? I measure number of live audio circles members attend per week, like, share, and comment. Yes. Number of participants in a particular project. Nice, nice. Now, would you actually break up this number into new members and old members?
Sorry, I am
Yeah.
unable to unmute now. I don't know what happened. And so what I was saying is that in the context of Quora, I think, I think this is more possible in scaled communities than smaller ones, because in smaller communities, you can literally track a lot of users and the actions that they're taking. But then in scaled communities, that is totally impossible, and that's not great utilization of time as well. So in such communities, we have set up, data points where we're doing a lot of data pulls, predefined data pulls, of kind of, figuring out who's activated, who's not, define your data sets, right? So anybody who, say for example, joined in a particular week, if they have created how many pieces of content, right, and who those people are, so that I am getting equipped with the name of the person, the profile link of the person, going to the profile link, taking a look at what they created, and then I think one of the very high impact actions that you as a community manager can take, which is very non-threatening to a community member, is to really cheer them for whatever smallest of actions that they have taken. So even if they have asked, say, in the context of Quora, a question, or even wrote, whatever kind of an answer, whether it is the Quora quality or not, I would in some way engage with that content by way of commenting, by way of thanking them, by way of supporting them. So I think these are very high impact action items that you can take, which are non-intrusive to the community. But I think at the same time, it is giving to them. You're telling them that, hey, thank you so much for your contribution, and trust me, when it comes from the community manager themselves, it really motivates
It
them.
does, it does. So I think you pretty much answered in terms of the baseline. How do we really measure activation? Go one step back. Identify all the low effort but impactful actions that a community member can take to be activated, because you have created the environment for them to make that action, and simply measure that. You don't have to do it on a weekly basis, do it on a fortnightly basis if you're a smaller community. If you're a larger community, you have the bandwidth, do it on a monthly basis. Because 30 days also the day when typically you will end up seeing churn. So typically I don't recommend 4 weeks. I say 2 to 3 weeks is a good timeline to measure these numbers and actually check for how many people have been activated. And why is this important? Bringing back to my simple logic, if someone is activated, only then can you engage with them. And engagement also leads to activation. So it's a loop. At the end of the day, community is nothing but a loop, which brings us to the second part of our workshop. And our jam today is, how do you crack engagement? And I think even David, recently put out a tweet saying, "Is engagement a tool or an end goal?" And that's something which all of us are constantly, because most community manager conversations are about, I have achieved X percentage of engagement. Mine is a highly engaged community. Awesome. My two questions. Yes, our communities are very engaged. How many people are actually responsible to create that engagement? That's where it leads to activation, getting more people to create more engagement. Because even your 2% can create a very high engagement value. And that's why when you see as your community scale, your engagement percentages are actually falling constantly. The averages, they will fall, right? So, how many people are contributing to engagement? And two, what is this engagement leading to at the end of the day? Why did you build the community? To get people to just come, talk with each other, share with each other? Or was there a bigger goal that needed to be achieved? Because that goal is actually aligned with your business goal. Take a moment to just think over this. I'm going to repeat what I said and process it and try to apply it for your own community. What was the reason you built that community? Purely for engagement reasons? Fair enough. So be it. But what is the goal that this engagement should achieve for the business? Because only then the business will say this engagement number is important. Otherwise, engagement as a metric is a community manager's metric. It's not the business's metric. If it does not lead to conversions, if it does not lead to return of users, traffic, session time, sales, be it anything. For example, Spotify, right? What is their metric? Their metric is number of sessions, number of hours of music played by every single community member. YouTube, not number of videos, number of hours spent browsing on YouTube. That's why you always see recommendations. The whole logic of recommendations is why? You don't leave the platform. Same with Insta, the reels. You want to keep scrolling. So Imran's Yash says how it translates in metrics, business case, but absolutely. And this is something which I wanted to discuss with everybody at the end of the session. Is a question that I'm often asked is, we want buy-in from our key decision makers in the community. How do we get them to sort of, understand that community is a very critical vertical? How do we ensure community builders have a very critical position in the business? If the community members can identify one metric of the community which is aligned to the business metric, you have all the buy-in from the business owners. Trust me on that one. But if you're unable to do that, then yes, the business will always question the community, saying, what are you doing? What is it that you're trying to achieve through this engagement? So Yash says internal communities we want directly leads to more developers available. Absolutely, bang on, bang on. You have to be able to measure the business metric. Aishwarya says everyone should feel motivated enough through the community to then contribute with a sense of ownership to the organization. But Aishwarya, there has to be a metric associated which you can measure. You can't measure motivation. There has to be a measurable outcome to it. So now, engagement. Typically, when you engage with your community, what do? Do you say, I want to hit an engagement metric of X number per week or per month? Or do you actually say that if I put out some content, yes, it should be engaged at a certain level, but what after that? What is the call to action? So always remember your engagement should have a call to action which takes your community member closer to solving their own problem statement. So if I'm a developer community, Yash, in your example, since it's right up there in front of me, what is it that you would do as an engagement which would help me as a developer? Neha, in your case, what would you do as a community manager for one of your users for engagement purposes, which would help me? Lakshmi is a financial platform, right? What is it that's going to help my women community members to achieve financial independence? That is the answer to engagement. And your tools of engagement are content and community. Community is a tool, it's a conversation starter, it's a way to share information. So, can you now step back and look at it very objectively and say, what is it that my engagement plan will consist of? Access to experts, masterclasses, workshops, live sessions, contest, giveaways, freebies, recognitions. So there's rewards and there's recognition. Are you going to gamify the engagement for them, introduce the coin economy to them? Are you going to use content? Are you going to use blogs? Are you going to use podcasts, videos, reels? Are you going to use infographics? Or are you going to use conversations? Are you going to create a post which allows 100 people to share their thoughts, views, and experiences? Those are your engagement hacks. But again, now, what works for me as an engagement hack in the same community will not work for somebody else. Why? I am a different member, she is a different member, he is a different member. Which brings me to the point that when you look at your community, and this is something which I want you to do right now, take a moment, think about the different kinds of members you have in your community. Different age groups, gender, professional life stages, personal life stages, maybe cities, maybe countries, maybe culture. All of these factors influence the way they engage with you in the community. So, can you take a step back and tell me how many kinds of members do you have in your community? I'm looking forward to the chat section bursting with information, guys. Neha, just let me know when do we have a hard stop? Another 10 minutes before we open up Q&A?
About, yeah, we
Yeah?
can take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're at 12:35 right
Yeah,
now.
okay. So another 5 minutes maybe, then we'll open up to the Q&A. So guys, in the chat, tell me how many kinds of members do you have in your community? I know clearly that I have about 6 kinds of members in my community. Neha, how many would you have? A lot more? Or would you be able to bucket them into a smaller number? Manohar says he's identified 9 types. That's a lot of number. Maybe we should try and reduce that because 9 is very vast. Bucket it even smaller, okay? It should be within 6, not more than that, guys.
You know,
Avina,
yeah.
yeah, go on,
So
go
the
on.
type of users that, the way that I understand this conversation is from a Quora perspective would be a reader, a lurker, a
Yes,
contributor. And then
absolutely.
within contributors, I would obviously then categorize them into power users, my top cream, etc. Whatever nomenclature
Absolutely.
do I want to use, and however do I define my community. That's how typically I would think about this.
Makes sense, absolutely. So basically, what we're saying is persona. So, Abra, to answer your question, kinds is equal to persona. Just says explorers, active developers, and advocates. Absolutely bang on. Typically, any community will have 3 kinds of members: generators, drivers, consumers. Generators are your power users who do a lot of power creation, who drive a lot of conversations. Drivers who are people who are following the generators and helping distribute and engage on what these guys create. And consumers are essentially the lurkers, the quiet people who do your low engagement activities in the community. So, Manohar, you should really take a call on 9 personas. Avinashi, you should really look at the 25 kinds of personas. Ultimately, we can bucket them into 3 pieces: generators, drivers, and consumers. Those would be further bifurcated, but they're going to be smaller cohorts. Now, when you identify the different kinds of members in your community, you know what engagement will work for one may not work for the other. So, when you create your engagement strategy, your engagement plans, keep in mind these 3 different kinds of members that you have in your community and accordingly plan your engagement. Typically, every single community has the same 10 things to do: challenges, contest, conversations, videos, content of any other kind, polls. It's the same pieces, right? The tools are the same. It's what you do with them really matters. It's how you present it is what is different from one community to another. Otherwise, guys, trust me, there's only so much you can do with these tools. It's how you present it and what question you put or what content you put in that poll that really plays the game. I remember in our community one time, we asked a very simple question to women. Very simple, okay? What made you take charge of your money? In within 68 minutes, I still remember, we had more than 350 comments on it. Why? It was a simple question. The tool was simple, but it triggered a thought. The same applies to each and every one of us. It's the same tool, it's what you put over there that really makes the difference. All right, let's see. Yash says there needs change as they proceed. I'm wondering if platform personas versus community personas would be different. Parking for Q&A. Absolutely. Yash, I will answer your question first. There needs change as they proceed. Remember this, what I say now. A community is as successful as its members. It stops growing if the community does not evolve with its own members. So, as your members are evolving in their personal, professional, or other needs, if you as a community don't evolve with them organically, they'd have no reason to continue with you. They will drop off. It's a call you take how long you want to be a part of their life. As a community, you can decide I'm going to be part of your life only from step A to step C. I don't want to go all the way to step Z. It's perfectly fine. You can't be all for everybody. So it's okay to be from step A to step C, or if you decide I want to be step A to step Z, then you will perform all those activities for them. So, Yash, your community has to define, you have to define as a community builder up to what time you want them to be with you. And then you have to ensure you're evolving with them. All right. So that's pretty much on engagement from my side and activation. I'm going to open this up to Q&A. Throw away all your questions in the chat section. I'm going to answer every single one of them, I promise. Should I take up Manohar's question first, Neha?
Yes. And I think, if anybody also, kind of has some solutions or some thoughts on the
Please.
question, please do tell us in the chat. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Platform personas versus community personas would be different. No. And I'll tell you why. When you build a community on any platform, the reason you've chosen that platform is because that platform already has the kind of members you want to attract in your community, right? So by default, those personas would be same. If you decide to make your own platform, you would design it and build it with your product team in such a way that it attracts the kind of community members you want. So why would it be any different? Typically today in India, we see Facebook, 75%, 65% users are male. Yes, but 35% users are female, and that's also a very large market for all community builders to tap into. If you want to redirect people to Slack, Slack as a platform is used by whom? Mostly professionals, a huge number, right? So you would by default have the similar mindset and the attitude and the usability pieces of your members flowing into your community. So I was not say that it's very different. It's the similar one because that's why you've chosen that platform. Otherwise, you wouldn't choose that platform.
You have some other thoughts, Manohar, on this.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there are no rights and wrongs, honestly.
Never.
Yeah, I think it's how we figure out things for our platform. I don't know if I can unmute you. I don't think I can. Just give me a second. I think I unmuted you. I muted you, Ritu.
So I was saying that what works for one community does not necessarily work for another, and every single community is actually always in an iterative state. You know, every 3 months you'll have new learnings and you will keep making your pivots. So maybe today you feel a certain platform works for you, but after a certain scale that platform doesn't serve your purpose and you may want to move to another platform. And that's wherein you may also realize that, you know what, I built out a community with X persona of members. It was great when I was building it. But now to get from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, I need a different set. I need a more evolved set of members. So be it. Change. Take that pivot. Do what it needs to make your community a true success. Absolutely. Any other questions? Any problem statements that you'd like to brainstorm over with? I think lunchtime calls for everyone.
We'll just give it one another minute in case somebody has any questions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, we do have another one. So Vineet asks, how do we ensure critical engagement in a volunteer-driven effort? Okay.
Vineet, how do you define critical engagement? If you can just share that. So, volunteer driven efforts, in my opinion, actually come from very truly motivated, inspired community members, which is
Yeah.
very often also the other challenge with volunteer driven efforts, Vineet, is you will see a churn every 60 odd days, which means that pipeline of volunteers willing to keep working and contributing is constantly getting populated with newer and newer volunteers because they will drop off, right? Because maybe they're not getting the ratification that they need from these efforts. Thanks, Yash, for joining in. It's a pleasure to see you. So, all of us are volunteered our time to create a successful event and no new engagement in the community. Okay, so tell me something, Vineet. The reason the volunteers have volunteered, right, to be part of that successful event, what made them want to volunteer? I think that is the question we need to ask ourselves. If we can identify what is it that motivated them and what is it that they seek in return, let's be honest. When you volunteer, you expect something. It could be a reward, it could be a recognition, it could be a position of importance, it could be a position of decision making, it could be networking, it could be influence, it could be the ability to upskill yourself. That would be a good question to actually understand from your volunteers. Why is it that they're volunteering their time, effort, and resources to be part of your event? And basis that, the community manager then has to create those triggers, those conversation starters, enabling the experience of those gratifications. Because only when you feel कि हाँ मैंने 10 चीजें करी and I'm getting one thing in return, I will want to continue doing those 10 things more. But if I don't see anything coming back to me, then I will drop off, right? Because then I'll say, this is not helping me. I'm doing something great. Am I enjoying this? Is it giving me networking skills? Is it giving me, maybe LinkedIn or maybe Facebook? Am I getting more recognition? No, drop off.
Yeah,
So maybe you.
I totally agree, Ritu. And I think, if you're not enabling those opportunities for them, because there's something that I have faced as an issue with, something that I was trying out, where actually I realized that I did not ask them. And then this was like a very, very small set of people, right? I'm not talking about at scale. I literally could have picked up the phone and asked them, "How is it that you want to get involved? This is the opportunity. Which part do you want to get involved in, or do you want to kind of take up the entire aspect of it?" So I did not ask, and I just kept wondering, why are they not getting involved? And this is something that I did, which kind of helped me give them what they wanted. And moreover, I think they really appreciated the fact that I asked. Because they also would be wondering, "Pooch kyun nahi rahi hai?" Why isn't she even asking? What is it that she expects from us? They were confused as well. I mean, she keeps pushing us, but what is it that she expects of us?
So true. And I think, you've said it all. At the end of the day, it's all about having those conversations. Very honestly, there should not be a reason to not have a conversation and saying, hi, how is it that I can help, make this better for you? What is it that you wish to achieve out of this engagement? And similarly, and this applies even to our communities, right? What is it that they want to achieve? What is it that we want to achieve? Let's just do it together. If there is a win-win and a common ground, why not? Awesome. So, Vineet, I hope that does answer your question, and good luck for the event that you're trying to create. We look forward to hearing more about it. Thanks, Vineet.
Would love to attend. Do
Oh, yeah,
share with
please
us.
do.
Yeah. If you think it is relevant for us, then yes.
All right. Any more questions? Anything that you guys want to brainstorm over? I'm here for another few minutes. We can always do that. Otherwise, you can always reach out on LinkedIn. Also, I do open up my calendars for office hours every month. You can always reach out, do a catch up. And yeah, I think I had a lot of fun today.
Ritu, maybe you can drop in your LinkedIn link, or maybe I can do it for you.
Can you? I don't have it handy.
Right away.
Thanks. By the way, I do see the sheet has been populated a little more. I'm happy to see that. That's
Thank
nice.
you so much, guys. Yeah. We'll kind of clean this up and share with you guys, once we're done with cleaning it up. And I think we'll just add in a lot more inputs that we can from our side, and send out an email to you guys that you have registered with on CMX.
Thanks, Ashwarya. I really appreciate you making the time out for hearing in today. Abrar has a question. If the community is trying to reach out again and again, even though you've grown out, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I understand from this question is you as a community builder, you're trying to reach out to your members, and your members have actually outgrown the community. Is that correct? Please just clarify that. I'll be happy to answer that.
Yes.
Yes, Ashwarya, we'd love to meet you too. Okay, so Abrar, like I said, right, as a community, when you start off a community, I think it's very important for us to define um, what's going to be the spectrum in which the community will operate in. What particular, so when we start off a community, we don't just start it ad hoc. We define who are the kind of members we want, the target audience for this community is, and then those are the members we try to onboard on our community. So it's very important to identify what needs will the community fulfill, and after what point of time we won't be able to fulfill. Now, you may decide to create a subgroup and offshoot which takes care of these evolving needs because your larger community is serving a different set of needs. Alternatively, you collaborate, you partner, you tie up with another community or brands wherein your community becomes a feeder for their community or their products and services. So, what you have done as a community is you've curated a set of services or platforms that they can continue on, and there is trust on those partnered brands also because it's being recommended by your community, which already is being trusted by the members. So I think evolving is a decision which is more strategic by nature, has to be kept in mind when, from a business perspective, also your bandwidth. Often we can't do everything. There's only so much we can do, or our teams can do, or maybe our expertise lies in a certain section of the spectrum. And those are the times when it's great to partner, collaborate with others. I believe communities, yes, you should partner a lot. Don't shy away from partnering, collaborating. It does not always come with a money tag. A lot of times, pro bono partnerships and collaborations give you so much in return. And it could be something as simple as credibility, trust, which helps you grow even more. And these are intangibles. It takes years to build it, right? But a great partnership where you get nothing in return, but at your core, you can say, I'm doing this for the benefit of my community members. Your community members start to see that you're truly in your for them. And trust is a currency which you can't buy, you can't trade. It's there, you build it on your own. So I hope that answers your question. In case, if not, Neha, if you have anything to add to it, please do.
No, I want to say I loved this response, Ritu. And I think what I really liked about it is not, I think most of the community builders that I've seen, kind of are very protective about their community. And I have no idea why. But I think what is important, that particular that if you've defined your community's life cycle, if your community's life cycle ends at a particular point in time of their life stage, uh, partner with another community that your community feeds into. I think that was such a lovely idea, because I think what they will be is you are wanting to create advocates for lifetime. They become your advocates for lifetime, and then they would talk about your community to people who are relevant for your community and ensure that they join that community. So, but also it has so many more benefits, right? I mean, it helps another community. Why not? I really love that idea.
Yeah. I think there's just one rider on this is ensure when you do these partnerships, there's no conflict of interest. Because if there's even a minor conflict of interest, the partnership won't be sustainable. So always get into sustainable, longer partnerships rather than, those very short-term benefiting partnerships.
Could you
But
clarify a little bit about, what do you mean by conflict of interest? I think a couple of people might want to know.
so, for example, if you want to become a feeder community, the life cycle ends. So, the community that you are going to collaborate with should typically start at that point of time, should not have an overlap with your life stage or life cycle of the community. The reason being, because then you would end up fighting for the same set of people at the same life point. So let's look at it this way. I have a community which serves people from A to C. You are a community which serves from B to E. Now, B to C is the set which you and I would end up fighting for, and that's where the conflict of interest is. So, hence, tying up may not be in best terms. Two, initially it would work out well, but after probably a couple of weeks, we may not be happy with it. I would recommend I am A to C, you are someone who's C to F. That's a classic case of partnership because you're not going to eat into my target audiences. I'm not going to be able to serve your target audiences. This becomes a brilliant feeder partnership also. So be mindful of these things. And I think when you do partnerships between communities, right, these are also engagement hacks at the end of the day. What more can you give them?
I think we should do one session on partnerships,
I'd
actually.
love it. I think you and I should do that.
Partnerships and collaborations. I think that would be a lovely topic to talk about.
Absolutely,
Anyway,
absolutely.
all right. If there are no more questions, I loved this discussion, and I'm really sorry, guys. I think something went wrong, and we just had a lot of people drop out during the breakout room. Some technical issue happened, and I'm really sorry for that and for that glitch. I wish they were sticking around. I think something really went wrong where they dropped off. But but yes, thank you so much for joining again. And we'd be doing similar sessions, and we keep doing events every month. I would really invite you and would really like you to get more involved. Keep a lookout for more events on our CMX Hub page. I will just leave the link of CMX Hub here for you to keep a tab on now on the events. And they not necessarily just be the CMX India event. There are tons of events happening across the globe. You should feel free to attend any of them. And of course, don't forget to come back to ours as well. But thank you so much, Ritu. This was so insightful, and I think this was so different from a lot of sessions we attend. This was literally practical knowledge, practical tips. It was not just yarn, which I am assuming that each of you also loved. Let us know your feedback. Also, let us know what is it that you want to hear in future. I will be sending out a survey or a short survey. Please do take some time to kind of just fill out that survey a little bit, so that we get more insights in terms of what we could do in future with our events. But again, thank you so much, and keep building. Keep engaging, keep activating, keep retaining. Your community, and feel free to reach out to any of us or any of the attendees. I think it is important that we keep sharing with each other and connecting.
Thank you so much, Neha. I think I've had a really fun Saturday morning. I do wish the glitch never happened, but nonetheless, it's a learning for us. So the next time we do something like this, we won't do breakout rooms, maybe. But
Unless
but
we need to figure out what went wrong.
yeah, but having said that, I think, yeah, thank you so much. This was really nice. And guys, if there's anything that at any point of time you want to sort of ask, brainstorm, do reach out to Neha, me, Manohar. We're all here, like LinkedIn, wherever you guys want to reach out to us. And thank you for the kind words in the chat. I'm feeling very happy.
All
All
right, you
right.
guys. Then let's close and have a lovely rest of the weekend. And take care of yourself. Please take care of yourself. A personal message from my side. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.